evening, and welcome to Mountain Bears. Of course, I'm Aeson Knight, Master Psychic, and Head Bear in Charge. And of course, we're sitting down with Techie Joe, Cubby Forever.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, 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 darling.
How are you this evening?
Tuckered, but okay. It's been a busy day. We got a lot of work done.
Now, was that tuckered or taco?
Both technically, but more tuckered.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so let's find a nice, light, breezy story before we have to give the Scarlet content.
Sure. I'll let you pick a light one. Because apparently I'm not picking light ones today. Like, no. I'm bringing the punches.
Well, I know you're bringing the punches, and I get that, but it's like, It's one of those like, oh, this one's cute. Remember that grandmother who shot her son-in-law? We talked about this case.
Vaguely.
The Alderson case, well, she is now back in court. Her final appearance before trial.
So, yeah, Donna Adelson makes final court appearance before trial. The 74-year-old's conspiracy and murder trial starts Tuesday. So, let's see. This is from WCTV in Florida. Because, of course, it's in Florida. It's just Florida woman, not Florida man.
Hey, it's equal opportunity now.
You know, there you go. So Donna Adelson made her final court appearance before standing trial next week in the murder for hire of her former son-in-law, FSU law professor Dan Markle. Adelson is accused of conspiring with her son, Charlie Adelson, to hire hitmen to kill Markle back in July 2014. Charlie has already been convicted in the plot and is listed as a state witness in his mother's trial. Thursday, attorneys were arguing over the admissibility of evidence, including text messages between Donna Adelson and her son Charlie about news coverage of the case, as well as text messages between Donna Adelson and her daughter Wendy within hours of Charlie Adelson's conviction. A Tallahassee police sergeant, Chris Cobert, was also called to the stand Thursday morning to discuss cell phone location data. Attorneys are arguing over a summary that will be shared with the jury. The judge ruled that it would be considered a demonstrative aid, not evidence in the case. Lead prosecutor Georgia Campbellman estimates it could take 6 to 7 days to present the state's case. Potential jurors are expected to report Tuesday morning, and attorneys estimate it could take 2 to 3 days to pick a jury in this case. So, yeah, that one's still. Just a quick refresher, though. So, yeah. Oh, and I'm getting ad.
Of course you are.
There we go.
CBS.
Yeah, so, I was looking for the original, information. Oh, wow. So she was picked up attempting to board a one-way flight to Vietnam when she was arrested?
Yeah, she was. Yeah, she was heading to Vietnam, where we do not have extradition. Even though she traveled there all the time, this was like her second trip. I think our first one was to buy a house.
Hey, Shannon.
Hello, Shannon, darling. Come on in, but put your headphones on if the half pints are in the room.
Yeah. So, quote, when we found out they bought tickets to Vietnam, we talked with our law enforcement partners and found out how difficult it would be to bring her back, said Campbell. So this definitely sped up our timeline. So, yeah, the 73-year-old South Floridian was booked into the Turner Guilford Knight Correctional Center Monday. Let's see, where are we at? Good grief. How deep does there we go. We have a giant, remembering or not remembering, but giant collection of articles on this.
Yeah. Like this case has been 10 years in the well, now 11 years. She tried to argue that the murder charges were too old. Then that she was too old. So I will be not joining, but watching with Emily D. Baker as we go into trial. This case is horrific. Like, I know there are some nightmare mothers.
Or monster-in-laws.
Yes.
Yeah. But it looks like getting back to the beginning is... Like, because I was looking to just go give a quick summary. And it's like, oh, no. Like, they have daisy-chained all the articles.
Right. And that's because this has been a battle. She has battled on everything, from the evidence to it's been too long, she won't be able to mount a defense. And they're like, we've got the records for you. It's in your discovery. Apparently, discovery took a U-Haul.
Oh, God. Yeah, no, there's a whole page on WCTV. Like, they've done at least 50 stories between the actual, like, because there's two defendants.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's basically the mother who orders the hit for her son to commit, and the son who committed the murder. So, yeah, there's a whole lot with this. But, yeah. Good grief.
Right.
Oh. Like, 50 is probably a underestimate.
Right.
Like, there's potentially 100. Like, this page just keeps going.
Right. And that's because this has been such a long, drawn-out case. Like, there's only a few other ones that have this many articles that a lot of them are like, we've done this. She files this. They've done this. She's filed this.
Well, and I'm sure that being local, this is probably, and being what it is,
right.
This is going to be a very hot topic in their local area, so it's going to get a lot of press coverage.
It will.
So, yeah, that's just kind of...
Mm-hmm.
Oh, still good. So, yeah, we'll look forward to that case starting and then getting to report on what's happening in it. That's just it. Oh, this was the dentist?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what was it that started all this? That's what I can't remember, is why did she... Or was
custody.
This the one... Custody?
Yep. Child custody.
What does a 73-year-old want child custody for?
She wasn't 73 then. She was 63 then.
60.
And she wanted her daughter to have custody.
Oh, that's right. Now I remember. Got it now. Yeah. That was the whole, so kill the son-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
Don't have to worry about the fact he's going to get any kind of custody.
Exactly.
There we go.
Yeah. So I'll be watching on Emily D. Baker. And we'll probably touch base on this on next Friday, see how that goes.
Oh yeah. There's going to end up being a lot to discuss here. Like, how much of a matriarch, like actual, like insane level matriarch.
Right.
And I'm just throwing the word insane around there. Right. But like, just like the magnitude, do you have to be to get a dentist?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this isn't your ne'er-do-well, drug addicted, like flunked out of high school. You know what I mean? Like, I could sort of understand if mom gets that child to like go off a deep end. Like, here's some drug money if you go like kill dude.
Right.
But you, like, how much control do you have to have in a family to get, like, a doctor to throw it all away.
Right.
And like that had to have been a moment in his trial.
Right.
So, anyway, all right, moving on.
Anyhow, moving on. Gonna put out a warning. If you have little children in the room, put on some damn headphones. We're going to cover one more story about Justin Timberlake to allow you to find them.
All right. So Justin Timberlake speaks out after reaching plea deal in DWI case. Don't get behind the wheel of a car. Timberlake reached a deal following his June arrest that will see the star pay $500 fine and complete community service. Just minutes after reaching a plea deal in his own DWI case, Justin Timberlake is speaking out on the dangers of drunk driving. The Mirrors singer, 43, addressed reporters, including people, outside the courthouse in Sag Harbor, New York on Friday, September 13th, and emphasized the importance of using a rideshare app. Well, thank you, people. A rideshare app or calling a friend to get home after consuming any amount of alcohol. What I'd like to say to everyone watching and listening, even if you've had one drink, don't get behind the wheel of a car. There's so many alternatives. Call a friend, take an Uber. There's many travel apps, he said. Take a taxi. This is a mistake that I made, but I'm hoping that whoever's listening and watching right now can learn from this mistake. I know that I certainly have. Even one drink, don't get behind the wheel of a car. Earlier in the day, Timberlake, who was charged with driving while intoxicated following his arrest in June, pleaded guilty to the lesser charge of driving while ability impaired as part of his plea deal. The agreement means the star must pay a $500 fine with a $260 surcharge, complete 25 hours of community service at the nonprofit of his choice, and have his license suspended for 90 days. He must also make a public service announcement about the dangers of driving impaired. While speaking to reporters, the Grammy winner expressed disappointment with his actions and explained why he felt the need to speak about the issue of driving while intoxicated publicly. Many of you have probably been covering me for a lot of my life, and as you may know, I try to hold myself to a very high standard, and this is not that. This was not that, he said. I found myself in a position where I could have made a different decision, but I've had some time to reflect on that, and I also understand that I have a platform. You have a platform. We share that platform. Timberlake also said that he grew up in a small town and could therefore appreciate and understand the strain or unique nature his case likely imposed on the people of Sag Harbor. The star grew up in Millington, Tennessee, a town with a population of about 10,400 people. Sag Harbor has a population of about 2,500 people. I just wanted to say to everyone who's been involved, from everyone in the courtroom to everyone outside, including the police department, that I'm very grateful and I thank them. And I guess in closing, I'd like to say we can all be more safe out there, and I'm going to do my part, he concluded. I hope that everyone else does their part, and thank you very much. While in court, Timberlake made a similar comment about the strain on local resources, which prompted Justice Carl Iris to question his intent, as he had not yet addressed his decision to drive when he could have used an alternative form of transportation. The musician then said he should have had better judgment and understood the seriousness of the issue, after which Iris told the star he appreciated his sincerity. I believe you, Iris said, before granting the plea deal and imposing the terms of sentence. Over multiple hearings this summer, Timberlake's attorney, Edward Burke Jr., has maintained in court that his high-profile client was not intoxicated when he was arrested, and Timberlake has said he had one martini. The star is currently on his Forget Tomorrow World Tour, which will continue through June 2025. His next show is scheduled for September 28th in Newark, New Jersey, and the tour is on track to land in the top 10 of the year-end tours list per Billboard. So that's an about face from I wasn't intoxicated to was definitely intoxicated.
Right. and that's a very big. Okay, I got my ass whipped, so I'm going to go and hide somewhere, and I'll say anything you want to say, just as long as you don't put me in jail and stop me from making my millions.
Either that, or just get it done and over with and get out of here.
Right.
Quit wasting money.
I don't like the fine. The fine is too cheap for him.
Oh yeah, the fine is ridiculous. I mean, for someone like this gets into the whole you can afford a DWI when you're Justin Timberlake.
And how many hours of community
I'm sorry,
service did he get?
25. That's probably the bigger imposition, except it's any nonprofit of his choosing. He's probably already involved in a few, counted as time served. It feels a little rubber stampy.
Okay, so he's got to pay $181.25 to whatever charity he chooses.
I mean, roughly.
Yeah. So $681 for putting the lives at risk. This is bullshit.
Well, and again, it goes back to the problems of not having a graduated fine schedule that actually looks at ability to pay in terms of, is this a punishment or is this a mosquito?
Right.
Slap it down and move on. Because it ends up being disparate justice.
Right.
If you are already, and I'm not trying to have a lot of sympathy for people who drive while intoxicated, because I don't, but I can at least understand that if this is already going to impair your ability to work, because you're an average human being, you are low income to start with, or pretty close to it. 25 hours of community service you can't afford to do physically, the time away, plus the loss of license for 90 days. There's a lot of people that can make homeless.
Exactly.
That's my whole point. That's a very stiff sentence for them. That is a serious thing that they have to consider.
Right.
Versus Justin Timberlake, I'm sure he made more money on people listening to his music while he was giving that press conference.
Exactly.
Than what that fine cost him.
Right.
Literally just in that amount of time.
Right.
So, I is that a fine? Is that really gonna challenge him?
Is it going to cause an improvement?
Yeah, I don't think the fine's going to do it. I mean, maybe public embarrassment. Though, quite frankly, and it's very sad to say this, but in terms of stars go bad, this barely registers as a blip on the radar.
Right.
You know what I mean? Let's put it in where it is. It's a serious problem, but how seriously messed up are so many stars, so many celebrities that this barely registers.
Right.
You got caught driving while intoxicated. I mean, which should be serious.
Right.
Please, no one misunderstand me. I do think it is serious. I'm just saying the level of screwed up, the bar, he is so far below, is ridiculous.
Right. It's insane.
Does anyone else feel like you just kind of expect this anymore?
Well, it's one of those. Honestly, I'm tired. Again, but if this was, say, who was that actor on Smollett? If this was him, that fine would have been tripled.
On Small what?
Smollett, Jesse Smollett.
Oh. not ringing a bell for me.
He was on Empire. He faked an attempted kidnapping. They found out as a publicity stunt. They found as a publicity stunt. Chicago sued him. Like, there was just all this back and forth stuff, and like anything he does is like triple fined.
Oh yeah, so the star from the Mighty Ducks and portrayed Jamal Lyon in the Fox drama series Empire. Staged a fake hate crime against himself in Chicago and later made false police reports regarding the incident. Convicted of 5 felony counts of disorderly conduct and was sentenced in March 2022 to 150 days in county jail. He was released 6 days later on bond. Appeal denied. Will be required to complete his 150-day sentence. Although the Supreme Court of Illinois announced in March that they would hear an appeal on his conviction, though no date was set for a hearing.
Right.
So yeah, a lot of things going on there.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's like. I almost like I'm struggling how to say it right, but like I think get over a fake hate crime a little bit faster than I can get over DW.
I agree.
Like comparatively.
But it cost him even more when this one's actually putting someone's life at risk.
Yeah, so the lawsuit in Circuit Court of Cook County against Smollett for the cost, totaling $130,105.15 of overtime, authorities expended investigating the hoax. He also lost, let's see, he had to forfeit a $10,000 bond. Although Smollett filed a countersuit against the city of Chicago. Look, there's so much going on with that one.
Sure.
And then he had to post a $150,000 bond and make restitution to the city of $120,000 and $25,000. Good God!
Right.
Like, what is this? Like, I'm not going to sit here and do the math, but it's like you're ringing up to like at least a house,
right?
Like $300,000-$400,000. Not to mention attorney's fees and everything else. Though I would say those are probably the same for Justin Timberlake on just this charge.
Right.
Like, I'm sure he has paid a pretty penny to get out of this the way he did.
Right.
Like, I mean,
and I think that, he will end up paying even more. I'm hoping that there will be a little bit of a council culture on him. Of course, he just seems to be like the golden child.
I mean, I hope he can move forward and not do that again.
Yeah.
Just say it.
Furthermore, a man with that amount of money, why are you driving? Why are you driving?
I don't know. Are we maybe not assuming, or are we assuming? Because remember, he was very popular, but he was very popular in a manufactured way. He was a manufactured star, and a lot of the guys that, any male, female, whatever, singers that came up at that point got totally financially screwed. Like, they hardly saw pennies off of what they actually generate.
Right.
So I was trying to see a net income real quick. Oh. Net worth, not net. Oh, well, at 250 million.
Exactly.
Yeah. Granted, that's estimated.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Yeah, I think you can afford a few $100s in fines and some attorney's fees.
Right.
Oh, that's not if it's hasn't just jumped to 350 million.
Exactly.
Because and this is a Wikipedia comment, but Timberlake had an estimated net worth of 250 million prior to the Hypnosis deal, and is now estimated to be worth in excess of 350 million, making him one of the music industry's wealthiest solo performers. So, yeah, I think you can afford.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Like a driver. Uber. Though, then again, can we talk about the realities of celebrities taking Ubers?
Limos, sweetie. Like, I'm sorry. If I had that amount of money, I would never see the gas gauge of a car.
Well, but here's the reality, though. Like, he's talking about take a taxi, take an Uber. Really? Has he? Since fame.
Right.
Have you gotten into a taxi? Have you taken a lift? Because I would think one, it would be
PR campaign.
Well, I know that's his PR campaign, but, like, make it real.
Right.
Like, because realistically, most of the people, granted, let me. Most of the worst offenders, let's take it that route, are going to be people who can afford this.
Right.
Because it's a nuisance charge, as far as they're concerned.
Right.
500. It's the speeding tickets are just nuisances. Used to be the old wealthy lie.
Mm-hmm.
Was that it was a privilege tax.
Right.
I think the same applies here. Some of the worst offenders end up being people who can most afford it. That it's like it's a nuisance. Whatever, just throw a lawyer at it and sign a check.
Right.
Hell, a business manager, I'm sure, is the one that signs the check, but
Right.
Still, all right. Still a while. Right. A little bit of a while.
Yeah. So, which do you want to go to, France or Subliminal?
I'm not sure what Subliminal is.
That's the one we were talking about. There isn't really a news article because everyone's staying away from this, but it's dangerous as fuck.
Okay, let's go with the one we have an article for first, and then we'll take it on as a topic after.
Okay.
All right. I'm sure you can Reddit it up to something.
You know what? We can just talk about it.
Okay, we can just talk about it. All right. This one is another story that has a lot of articles related to it. I'm kind of jumping in at the end because this is probably it's the middle of it's the present.
Right.
It's, I believe, the most up to date. It's also the least problematic story.
Right.
So again, this was his warning. If you have small children, we warned you.
Right.
All right. So from CBS News, Frenchman on trial over wife Giselle Pellicot's mass rape hospitalized before giving testimony, lawyer says. So a Frenchman being tried for recruiting strangers to rape his drugged wife has been hospitalized, his lawyer said Tuesday, in a development that raises the prospect of the trial being adjourned. Dominique Pellicot, a 71-year-old retiree who was to have been cross-examined for the first time later Tuesday, was hospitalized earlier in the day, his lawyer Beatrice Zarvo told the court. Presiding Judge Roger Arata ordered the accused to be examined and emphasized that he could request a suspension of trial until the defendant's, state of health improves. Pellicott has been on trial since last week for repeatedly raping and enlisting dozens of strangers to rape his heavily sedated wife in her own bed between 2011 and 2020. 50 other men aged between 26 and 74 are also on trial for alleged involvement in the case, which has horrified France. His ex-wife and victim, Giselle Pellicott, also 71, says she was troubled by strange memory lapses for years until police uncovered the abuse by chance after her husband was caught filming up women's skirts in a local supermarket. Dominique Pellicott, who has admitted to the charges against him, was to be questioned Tuesday afternoon. He was excused from court Monday over abdominal pain and on Tuesday morning was still in bad health, according to the presiding judge. Medical staff took samples for analysis yesterday and do not have the results. Mr. Pellicott is said to still be unwell. I will, during the day, request emergency care, he said, adding that he could be led to suspend the hearings for a few days if the primary suspect's health didn't improve. Experts described Dominique Pellicott in court on Monday as a self-centered manipulator with no empathy and a split personality. His lawyer, Zarvo, said her client had been looking forward to explaining what he did. Stephanie Babineau, the attorney for Giselle Pellicott and her adult children, said it was absolutely necessary that Mr. Pellicott be treated medically and be able to attend the debates in court. Giselle Pellicott and her children do not wish to be heard without him being present, Babineau said. An investigator and an IT expert were to speak to the court Tuesday in lieu of the testimony that had been scheduled from the primary accused. Pellicott kept meticulous records of the abuse of his wife, including videos, all of which was discovered by police who seized his computer and other equipment. Most of the alleged rapes took place in the Pellicott's home in Mazan, a village of 6,000 people in the southern region of Provence. Their daughter, Carolyn Darien, 45, has said her life was literally turned upside down when she heard of the alleged abuse. Naked photo montages of her had also been found on his computer. She said in court last week that her father was, quote, likely one of the worst sexual criminals in the past 20 years. The couple's two sons were still due to speak in court. Like,
this case is a horrid.
And like literally no article you're going to read on this case gets better.
No.
Like it just there's more detail and more detail and more detail, and it's not an improvement.
Right.
Like it all makes it worse.
Right.
But this is the most cohesive that explains it without going way into it.
Right. To the point that, we'd lose both platforms.
Yes.
But this is a horrid, and this is what they have record of. They have not, going back in time, we don't know if there's 8mm film. We don't know if there's videotapes. We don't know if there is, other things that he may be destroyed, as not many people have VCRs anymore, especially in France. And then to meticulously record this, no.
Well, yeah, and there gets into other pieces of there's so much more to the story. And again, the more articles you read, the worse it gets. Because it's looking like at least back to 1991 was roughly about the timeline that they have for like serious criminal actions.
Right.
Not against his wife, but in regard to two other women. like I said, it doesn't get better.
Right.
Like everything about this. So okay. So to recap, and then we have the 50 guys that are on trial.
Mm-hmm.
That as he's masterminding
Mm-hmm.
this situation, the rape of his wife, the men that he's inviting over to be involved in this, I believe it was something like there's 14 that have already pled guilty.
Mm-hmm.
So whether like, and that's where I start getting a little back and forth on this, is if they were unable to afford to defend themselves and they took a deal, if they, personally felt like that was ultimately the situation, or if they legitimately had knowledge that that was the situation they were being invited into.
Right.
Because argumentatively, there are some comments from some that at least indicate that they thought this was a consensual non-consent situation. Right. So I'll let you take that one. Consensual non-consent.
Consensual non-consent means like before activity occurs, there is open consent. This happens with some kinks. This happens with some people that enjoy this lifestyle. And it's part of the kink community. It's some people have very racy fantasies. They, it should be with a partner you trust. This, however, is not even on that scope.
Well, theoretically, it could be. This would be at a very extreme end.
Administrating powerful tranquilizers, often Trimamine and an anxiety reducing drug.
Yeah,
is not consensual non-consent.
Well, this is where consensual non-consent, I don't want to say gets fun, gets interesting. I'm trying to find a word for it. Gets hotly debated.
Right.
And this is where you start moving, or this is where you have moved into an area of not only would someone who agreed, if that were the case, and this has come up in this trial.
Yeah.
Is she has literally been questioned, or previously been questioned about whether she consented, or if anything she did might have previously given him the indication that she consented. They've had to, of course, build the foundation for it. It's not an attempt to shame her, but
and she's not taking any shame in this. Oh, she done said, "Oh, fuck this shit. I'm in ruins. We're gonna burn this house down."
Pretty much. She's like, "Nope, we're having a public trial," because she had an option. And yes, you can release my name. Full name, don't care.
Right.
We're putting the shame where the shame belongs, and it ain't on me.
Right.
So for that is absolutely awesome. That she is, in spite of her own tragedy and disaster and chaos, willing to let others see into it.
Right.
And not
here, I am absolutely competent, she said to Thursday. I never pretended to be asleep. Nothing of the sort. Her and her lawyer are having to slug it out with this person. I'm assuming this is his lawyer.
Like, yeah, they're making sure as this goes along that like this was not consensual in any way. There was no basis for him to think it was consensual.
Right.
Like, and the unfortunate reality is these are the kinds of questions,
right,
that, given the situation, sadly have to be asked.
Right.
Like, it's not about blaming the victim. It is in some ways about trying to understand
right,
what actually occurred.
right,
Like, because as horrific as the situation is, I would almost think she would want to have the moment where, oh my God, I said I did,
mm-hmm.
and he took it somewhere totally crazy.
Right.
Because there would be at least some kind of like ability to comprehend it somehow.
Right.
Like, and maybe those aren't the best words, but I think anyone in this situation would almost start grasping at straws.
Right.
To go, how? Because for 51 years, they were married.
Right.
51 years. And she literally got a knock on her door that told her, hi, this is what your husband has on his computer.
Mm-hmm. It's a horde. Now, this is, like, I know he's 71 years old. And I swear, and I'm watching this case, and I swear, if this lawyer even breathes the word of he's 71 years old, and no, age doesn't get you the hell out of this.
Yeah, I don't think anyone has the patience for that.
Right.
To even try.
And I don't even know how
he's just too old
studying through this without looking at that lawyer and going, "You're a bold-faced liar. You say that again in our court, and I would hold you under contempt."
I mean, there's, and again, it's one of those cases. The more you read, the worse it gets. The more like,
right.
And you do start to try, like, and I can even say, reading the article, you're just like, how does this happen?
Right.
Like, where, why? And I think that was sort of where people were hoping Tuesday would take them.
Mm-hmm.
Is like, right now you're a monster who did monstrous things to your wife. What in the hell possessed you?
Right.
To any of it.
Right.
To do it. To record it. To invite other people into it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to and lie to them, potentially.
Right. And see, okay, we've both done hookups. Everyone has done a hookup sometime in their life. No aftershave, no cigarette odors were allowed. They had to warm their hands before touching her and undressed in the kitchen so they would not accidentally leave clothes behind in the bedroom.
Yeah. I'm thinking the ones
down to a pin.
Yeah, like he had covered all his bases. But it makes me start to wonder, did she have clues over time that she kept writing off? Because what would you make of it?
Right.
That's weird. Our bedroom smells like cigarette smoke.
Mm-hmm.
That's weird. I don't know why I'm smelling some weird cologne that I don't think my husband's ever worn.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I could totally see, like, you having a moment being like, why?
Right.
And not necessarily putting it with anything.
Right.
Because, again, you were fully unconscious for the event.
Right.
Like, I there would probably be a lot of things I could write off on that. I would say even without being knocked unconscious, I would almost think that if I woke up to it, I would think that I was just having some horrible dream.
Right.
Like, there's no way.
Mm-hmm.
At least that I would think it's 60 to 70 years old.
Right.
Like, you've been married for 40 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't imagine. Now, one of the things that got brought up, and I don't think there's a lot of clarity around it, but what it sounds like is, like, he brought up the idea of swinging, which he wanted to do to her. She rejected that. And it legitimately sounds like he didn't argue. He didn't, like, bring it up again. He just literally started doing this.
Right.
Like, formed a plan, got all the, required things he needed together, invited people over, and did it.
Right.
I think that's the part I'm struggling somehow the most with.
Right.
It's somewhere between that makes it all worse.
Right.
And is that really what I should understand? Like, that's the timeline.
Right.
That, like, you brought it up, she said no, you went, okay, formed a plan, pulled your resources together, and just did it. Like,
right. And done even deeper research, because he would have to know how to mix this, the testamine, that they're using for freaking Alzheimer's. Like, the combination that they're saying he uses, they're both Richwoods, Xanax, Ativaline, Lofidine, and
just copy and paste them to private. I'll read them. That'll be easy. I mean, not trying to give someone a playbook. So Valium, Ativan, and Klonopin, diazepam, lorazepam, alprazolam. Oh, Xanax. Sorry, Valium, Ativan, Xanax, and Klonopin. So diazepam, lorazepam, alprazolam, and clonazepam.
Right. The reason I'm going, oh fuck, is that's the edited version that I translated. The other version has the milligrams.
Yeah, no, don't.
Yeah.
No. All of which are, like, can be, depending upon dosage, very sedating drugs, and all of them can have issues with sporadic use.
Right.
Like, you and all of them have side effects that I'm sure were, and that was part of this too, is for a decade this woman's been going to the doctor trying to figure out what is wrong with her, because she's having lapses in memory and losing time and struggling.
And too much.
Yeah, excessive sleep. And she literally at one point began thinking that she was developing dementia.
Right.
That like, her mind was going.
Right.
I mean, so she, even if she wasn't aware of what was occurring to her,
right,
which is one horrific event, she was living with the side effects of the meds to allow that event to occur, which was in turn a whole other nightmare.
Right.
Of somewhere between, like, something's wrong with my brain.
Right.
And this is it. I'm 70-some years old and I have dementia.
Right.
And this is, I'm gonna crack up one day.
Right.
Like, I'm not gonna be able to do it.
It convinced her. It came out. It's in one of the other trials.
Okay.
that he had convinced her that she could possibly be beginning to, have dementia.
Again, even worse.
Right.
Like, this is what I'm saying. Every article makes it worse.
Every article makes it worse. One, I feel sorry for the ones that actually are stupid enough to believe this. Okay, the 50-ish, you will see ish because I say there's still more evidence that they will have to go through.
And when it's laid out as it's laid out in the article, like, it would be very hard for anyone to hear like the list of things they were not allowed or not allowed to do, or required to do, however you want to put it. If you heard all those before, like, that's your introduction. Mm-hmm. Is like, here's the scenario, and this is your list. Mm-hmm. Like, you're allowed, you're not allowed, you can, you should, you're required, blah, blah, blah. If you went through all that with someone, but then again, I figure the cologne cigarette thing, you had to have done, like, said before someone came over.
Right.
Argumentatively, the warm up your hands and, take your clothes off in the kitchen, argumentatively,
right,
they may not have found that out till they got there. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I can think of a few scenarios where you could potentially not have pre-told someone that.
Right.
And so, therefore, potentially, they thought about it. I'm sure had to have been thinking about it after.
Right.
And been like, that was so weird.
Right.
That was weird.
Mm-hmm.
But still maybe not putting it all together.
Right. And I'm hoping she's receiving intense therapy.
I mean, yes, though my knee-jerk reaction on that is I don't know that therapy can do someone any good in this.
Right.
Like, I think therapy can have some limits in some situations, or just, where do you start?
Right.
Like, I can't imagine trying to tackle this as a therapist. Right. Like, this is one of the most horrific sex crimes. Like, I agree with his daughter, at least the last 20 years, if not longer.
Right.
Like, this is the worst thing I could have, in many ways, think of ever happening to an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just from the layers of things wrong with the situation.
Right. And to go even farther, because he's got two other cases.
Mm-hmm.
One is a murder charge. One is a murder case.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and then there's the original accusation that started all, or the right. Not accusation, but the original charge that started all.
Right.
Which is the, inappropriate photography.
Right. It's horrifying. It is horrifying in general.
Yeah.
Okay. We will keep monitoring this case, and hopefully she will receive justice for most of this. All right. Here we go, guys. All right. So this is being discussed in Reddit, and it's like pieces of Reddit, and Reddit keeps taking them down.
Yeah.
Well,
Reddit may not be the best forum.
It isn't, and none of the news, like, I was searching to even find you news to kind of guide you along, and there's not much. Like, it keeps linking it to something else, and this is not it.
Yeah.
Okay. So everyone knows what hypnosis is, what it's supposed to be. Everyone knows what subliminal messaging is and what it's supposed to be used for, and how, like, in the 70s, a lot of companies got in trouble for using subliminal messaging in their advertisement. Well, apparently that software is now easy and free to get their hands on.
Well, the fundamental process actually isn't all that hard.
Right.
Like, realistically, in many ways, it could still be going on.
Right.
And potentially still is in more discreet ways.
Right.
Like, okay, so subliminal messaging is sometimes confused. Like, there's an overt form of it, which is you're seeing like one frame every like 30.
Right.
So it or even less, that has text on it. And while you don't actually see it because it occurs and goes away so quickly,
right,
it actually you mentally process it.
Right.
And so, like, the old example is that you like supposedly the way that movie theaters sold so much popcorn was that they would cut a film in a way so that it would pop words on the screen and images on the screen that made that while you didn't actively see it in a way that's like, I saw popcorn and the word popcorn on the screen.
Right.
Your brain got triggered with the image.
Right.
That one frame in 30 in a second, so 1/30th of a second was enough to, if you continuously did it, to make you subliminally, subconsciously desire popcorn.
Right.
So that's the traditional version of overt subliminal messaging. There's also a less overt version that is in many ways still done. And it plays heavily on things like color theory, like staging and angles, in which you can, without directly, clearly overlaying words, create an environment that conveys a message.
Right.
Now, some of those are less, like, you could almost consider them in some ways more overt, but they had more to do with their time.
Right.
Like and some of them are very unintentional. It's just, well, that's what everyone did. So many smokers sitting at home now watching a movie in which, say, Betty Davis stars in, will smoke so many cigarettes because every time you turn around in a Betty Davis film, she's lighting a cigarette.
Yes.
And there is this phenomenon in which when a smoker lights a cigarette, it triggers other smokers to also want to light a cigarette.
Right. Well, that's visual. This is actually being hidden in like backtracks and music. And when I say music, I'm talking about the background music or the hypnotic track. And this is being presented. The three cases I looked at earlier, and when I went to pull them, they're no longer there. The first one was a couple done a hypnos together thing. And it continued on. As in, they finished the tape, and it just, the trigger stayed in there and kept getting more ingrained. Because, of course, every time a trigger is used, it's more ingrained. The second one, this dude was turned into a cash bag.
Okay.
Like thousands of dollars every time began disappearing from his account, and he didn't get it. And then someone went and found where the money was going. And the third one was actually a guided meditation for prosperity that they had put in a subliminal track message in there that made you turn around and buy the bigger courses for their free money manifestation.
Well, and I think we got to be careful, because there's hypnotic suggestion and subliminal messaging, which can be auditory as well. And the reality is, for subliminal messaging to work, it's got to be short, concise, action-driven, or at least the actions implied, and repetitive.
Right.
So in terms of an audio, like you've got the big giant movie, and again, using like the movie theater example and extending it. So you have the great big giant movie, like let's say you're watching Die Hard. Big loud movie, lots of bangs, lots of crap going on, people screaming, like there's so much noise in that film. Overlaying it would be for subliminal. Would be buy popcorn. You're hungry. Buy popcorn. You're hungry. Would be a subliminal message. Short, concise, action-driven, repetitive. Keywords here is both. There is a failure rate. Not everyone is suggestible. Not everyone hears and processes the message. Not everyone who even hears and processes it necessarily performs the action. Like they may be starving for popcorn by the time they leave. But like they may not do it. But there's enough people that'll give in. That's a subliminal message. Hypnotic suggestion typically, I believe, has a higher failure rate. Because you have to induce the hypnotic state. So you have to pull someone down to trance state successfully. And that can be hard enough in a clinical setting. Let alone, here's a free audio. Like, go enjoy a guided meditation. And you're like, okay, I will download your free audio and enjoy my guided meditation. I'm sorry, I have listened to a few different guided meditations. And quite frankly, I feel like they're rushed. Like I feel like I need so many more guided meditations before I could listen to this guided meditation and benefit from it. Like, you know what I mean? Like I feel like the cadence of going from like I hit play to where I'm supposed to be in this guided meditation is a little quick. And so I just kind of end up like, one, you're about to make me hyperventilate because I'm going to die from not breathing because I'm trying to follow along with your breathing suggestions. And like, I don't know what's wrong with you or wrong with me, but like, it doesn't work. Like, I'm sitting over here, like, ready to gasp for air. You didn't tell me what the pattern was. What am I supposed to do? So I tend to lose those to begin with.
That's with you.
Well, yeah, that's with me. But I'm saying that also, that's where I start to talk about the failure rate is that typically in a clinical setting, that's going to be a trained medical professional who is also responding as they're talking and inducing a trance state and guiding you through this, responding to what you're doing.
Right.
And so they can adjust. They can be like, okay, you're getting there really quickly. Like you've gotten to trance state like really fast.
Right.
Move forward. Or you're getting distracted. You're not focusing. You have 50 thoughts race through your head. Okay, we're going to take our time and keep going and let you get over that. So I think to some degree that either you have to be very versed in hypnotic suggestion, having done it repetitively and being able to quickly get your brain to that slowdown where you can enter a trance state, or you're in the unfortunate percentage of people that progression hits you.
Right.
Like, that's my interpretation. That as much as, and does anyone remember back like 80s television shows that hypnosis was just supposed to be like this really easy thing and all you needed was a pocket watch or a candle?
Yeah, but it's much more than that.
Like, I know, but does everyone remember like all the 80s television devoted to hypnosis?
Right. But now here's the problem. We have, and it always happens, whenever something becomes more publicly teachable, publicly available, whatever, charlatans doing this. And using this as a way to escape money out of people. To escape finances, control, whatever you want to call it. And there's no regulation.
Yeah. Meanwhile, it's also a generally disliked practice across the board.
Right.
Because there's a lot of debate around it.
Right.
And a lot of that debate comes out of the 80s. And the things that are associated with hypnosis and like recovered and repressed memory. And sometimes the realities that for some people you may have legitimately recovered memory. You may have helped them through the trauma that was preventing them from remembering what occurred.
Right.
For other people, it seemed to have triggered an imaginative recreation of what occurred that did not have to be based in reality.
Right.
And there were a lot of, like, this was at one point accepted as like fully legitimate science that like everything recovered through hypnosis or done during hypnosis was 100%.
Right.
Then there were a few situations where it glitched bad.
Right.
And this is kind of the other side of that coin.
Right.
What we're talking about that's occurring is that, one, there are people releasing tracks that are not polite little free guided meditations, so please be careful what you listen to. Choose your sources carefully.
Right. Research your sources.
Yes. Like, not every freebie online is something you want to be putting into your head.
Right. And the other thing is, like, the other side of this is something like, I don't know, like, I can hear it, but I think I can hear it because I've heard so much of them. There is like a hum in the track.
That can be a few different things. Some of that is actually intentional. And it's one, you have to realize that, like, in terms of audio recordings, most are going to have some kind of an electrical hum.
Right.
Microphones are far more sensitive than sometimes the software used to clean them up. Like, it would be great if the whole world were professionally produced in a studio. There's a lot of people who will literally do no more than record this on their cell phone and send it to someone else to clean up and press a CD.
Right. But what I'm saying is, like, some tracks, and you can hear in video most often, or video compilations, there's like this, not the hum that you can hear in normal, like, recordings, computers. We're almost noise blind to that. But this is an additional hum in tracks. And it's like, watch that one, or stay away from that.
Don't watch that one. Yeah. Be careful with that one. Now that, getting more into that, like, now there are some things that happen when you process audio, and sometimes it can distort, like, normal background noises. But you can also overlay frequency tones over audio. And you can also skew your audio. Those are typically known as binaural beat tracks.
Right.
And what's generally happening is you're creating a frequency distortion. And what that effectively does is, if you shift the audio just a little, you create, I need to back up real quick to explain. So touch-tone telephones are a perfect example of this. When you hit the button for a touch-tone, it is not one frequency. It's not one note.
Right.
It's two tones being played against each other, and you're hearing the in-between.
Right. Because it's the old sound. It's technically the old sound of the tone when it was a manual one. That's not what I'm talking about when I hear some of these tracks, and it's like, no, we're not listening to that.
Okay. Well,
what I'm talking about is when you take a audio track, and you've got the standard audio track, you may have some recording BS going on, and then there is a subliminal, a third track into that music. I classify it as subliminal, but I can hear this hum, and the best way I can explain it is like the hum of a wine glass to it. And it's because they have reduced the sound quality, kept it very simple, and it's a repeatable sound. It is not binaural beats, because when I have to take like a 5-minute nap, a 10-minute nap, I use binaural beats. That's different.
Okay. Well, because generally that's, for most people, described as a hum, because you get the tonal reflection.
Right.
And it does have a very, exactly like you're describing, for most people, it's a wine glassy kind of sound that, like,
right,
that makes the tone that you would get from a wine glass.
Right.
And that can be used to move you through different brainwave states, which is the whole point of binaural beats.
Right.
Is to help your brain get to alpha wave, gamma wave, whatever wave.
Right. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is the use of subliminal commands, subliminal things being put into things that aren't expected, like, buy our course. You must buy every course. You must, to succeed, you must buy every course. You are already, and this is all hidden within. And they're not advertising that it's got subliminal messaging in it. They're not advertising, send blank cash. You want to make him happy.
Well, and typically, like, here's the weirdo part, though. Some courses, like some freebies, basically have that in it.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is a free sample course, apply this to your life, whatever. And, it cuts off at a point and goes, well, to learn more.
Right.
To get unlock the full potential. The reality being that, but then if you're also dealing with an overlay track that is slowly feeding the same message, you can potentially alter consumer behavior. That someone who would have listened to this and went, I don't know if it's for me, like, I'll try some of the things, becomes, if it works,
right?
Which again, mileage can vary a little. But that's sometimes the worst part about it.
Right?
Is how would you know?
Right?
How would you know?
Right?
Like, did you buy this because you actually found it useful, or because you've already been told that it's useful,
right?
And that you need it,
right? So I'm going to say this, and then we got to wrap it up.
Okay.
I'm saying that don't do any hypnosis unless you're dealing with a human that's qualified, and I'm talking about more than you to me. Okay. If you're going to do any guided meditations, please don't just use user 3337. These can be very dangerous. These can be very problematic. Research who you're getting your content, especially when it's dealing with your brainwaves on a specific level. All right, so we're going to take a break, and we'll be back, and Joe can plead his case on whether he's an asshole.
All right.
Love diving into metaphysical topics, psychic insights, and lively discussions? Now you can help keep the conversation going. By becoming a Patreon supporter of The Psychic Coffee Shop, you'll gain access to exclusive content, behind-the-scenes insights, and special perks just for our patrons. Join our community and ensure that your favorite psychic show continues to thrive. Your support helps us bring more enlightening episodes, special guests, and deep dives into the world of the unseen. Become a patron today and enjoy a cup of wisdom with us every week. Click the link to join the baristas and unlock exclusive content. Thank you for your support.
Unlock your full potential with Aeson Knight's life coaching. Are you ready to take control of your life and manifest the future you deserve? Aeson Knight, a seasoned life coach and master psychic, is here to guide you on a transformative journey. Whether you're navigating personal challenges, career transitions, or seeking spiritual growth, Aeson's life coaching services offer tailored guidance to help you achieve your goals. With Aeson by your side, you'll discover the tools to overcome obstacles, embrace your true self, and create a life filled with purpose and fulfillment. His unique blend of spiritual insight and practical coaching empowers you to turn your dreams into reality. Ready to make a change? Book your session today and start your journey to a more empowered, balanced, and joyful life with Aeson Knight. Click the link to schedule your first session and step into your power.
Are you ready for an electrifying podcast experience that keeps you coming back for more? Join Aeson Knight every week as he takes you on a journey through captivating shows, each exploring unique and fascinating topics. And here's the best part. By subscribing, you'll never miss an episode where you can get your burning questions answered live on air, absolutely free. Whether it's relationship advice, career guidance, or mystical insights, Aeson's podcasts have got you covered. When you subscribe, you become part of a vibrant community, engaging directly with Aeson as he shares his wisdom and leaves you feeling empowered and enlightened. Don't miss out. Subscribe now and be part of the conversation. What you'll get by subscribing: Monday 5 p.m. Metaphysics. Today, soulful conversations with Aeson Knight and Firefly, exploring the essence of metaphysics in today's world. Tuesday 8 p.m. The Psychic Coffee Shop. Dive into current events with a psychic twist, featuring special guests and thought-provoking discussions. Friday, 9 p.m., The Mountain Bears Podcast, lively discussions from a gayish, techy-ish, bearish perspective with Aeson and Joe. Sunday, 5 p.m., Psychic That Plans. Get a weekly tarot energy overview and time management tips from Aeson Knight. Click here to subscribe now and never miss an episode. By subscribing, you're not just tuning in, you're joining a community of curious minds and ensuring you're always in the loop with Aeson's insightful and interactive shows. Don't wait. Hit that subscribe button and get ready for an amazing podcast journey.
Ready for an enchanting journey of self-discovery? Join Lord Aeson Knight in our Wicca courses. Unveil the secrets of Wicca. Explore deity relationships, rituals, and more. As a third-degree high priest, Aeson Knight guides you toward empowerment and enlightenment. Enroll today and take your first step into the magical circle. Click the link to begin your journey.
Psychic Saturday. Get 50% off with Aeson Knight every third Saturday of the month. Don't miss out. Book now.
All right. Welcome back.
Yes.
Okay, what's your case?
All right. Am I the asshole for telling my boyfriend's parents I make more money than him after they made fun of me and called me a gold digger? My boyfriend, Tim, male 27, and I, female 27, have different backgrounds. Tim grew up wealthy while I was raised in a trailer by a single mom. I now own a tech startup. While I'm not loaded, I do very well for myself. Tim is a software engineer too, but he has an entry-level job and makes much less than me. This never seemed to bother him. He's a gentleman and always holding doors for me, buying me gifts, and insisting on paying when we go out. He knows my job is erratic and demanding, so he does most of the chores and cooking and doesn't seem to mind. I should mention that I have a flashy appearance. I have thick blonde hair extensions and eyelash extensions. I've also had some minor cosmetic surgeries. I get regular spray tans and manicures. I wear nice clothes, including high heels and lots of jewelry. I am also, naturally, large-chested. My appearance, combined with my background compared to Tim's, would suggest I am a gold digger, even though I pay for my appearance alterations and most of my clothes. I met Tim's parents last night. Tim warned me that his parents were traditional and conservative and told me for my sake I should dress modestly the first time I meet them. For our first meeting, I wore a knee-length dress and a simple necklace Tim bought me. All was going well at first, but Tim's parents started asking me questions about my background. When I told them, their demeanor changed. Tim's mom, Ash, asked me where I got my necklace, and I told her Tim bought it. Then Tim's dad, Ben, said, I bet he bought your large-chestedness for you too, and started cackling. To my dismay, Tim laughed along. I was upset, but forced the giggle. The conversation awkwardly continued until Tim left to use the bathroom. Ash pulled me aside and called me a white trash gold digger and told me I was never going to take Tim's money. I laughed and said if I was going to date someone for money, I wouldn't date Tim. She looked confused and asked me what I meant. I told her I make more money than Tim. When she didn't believe me, I showed her my company website, which includes my bio. At this point, she pulled Ben into the room and showed him the website too. Both were in shock. I thought they would apologize, but instead they called Tim into the room and berated him for not being able to provide for his girlfriend. I told Tim we should leave. I thought Tim would be thankful I saved him there, but instead he asked me why I couldn't have just kept quiet about the money thing. He told me I emasculated him by saying I made more money than he did. And I knew his parents were traditional, so I shouldn't have said anything. I told him I knew they were traditional, but I didn't know they were jerks. Plus, he laughed along when his parents made fun of me. He asked me why I couldn't just go with it for one night. We decided this argument was going nowhere and we should take some time alone. After some time, I'm still wondering if I'm the asshole in this situation.
No.
So, Well, I was going to read the OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I told my boyfriend's parents I make more money than him. I don't understand his family dynamic and could have caused them to berate him. It may have been better for me to keep my mouth shut.
Nah, sorry. Be proud of what you make. Because we get this. We've gotten this. The number of times I've been told, oh, I have to go do my real job. I want to blow a fucking stack out.
Yeah. No, it's understandable. Like, not the asshole. I think in many ways, like, OP got set up here. I think the boyfriend, Tim, knew exactly how this evening was gonna go. That, quite frankly, introducing people to his parents requires a lot more than they're conservative. That's a lot of shine on their kind of snobbish dumpster people.
Right.
As in, they may have culture and refinement and wealth,
right,
but frankly, they basically exist in dumpster.
Right.
And in addition to being very judgmental, have some very ugly views on what and how people should dress and act and look like and to somehow win their approval.
Right.
While simultaneously being very bought into what is a traditional mindset of, patriarchal provider. That they had no problem browbeating their son for not being, even though he seems to have opted out of that mindset. He also doesn't seem uncomfortable.
Right.
So yeah, definitely not the asshole. I don't know how you move forward with this one, because this isn't just about your boyfriend's parents.
Right.
This has a lot more to do with your boyfriend.
Right.
And the fact that he would subject you to that, not try to defend you from it, and then get mad at you when you defended yourself, has a lot of issues.
Right.
And not a lot of good responses. As in, I can't think of any.
Right.
So, good luck. I don't know what else to tell you, OP. Good luck.
Well, we got to judge if she's the asshole or not, and I don't think she is.
Oh, not the asshole.
Yeah.
Like that part's clear to me. I wouldn't even know where to begin to advise someone.
Well, I began advising it. No, don't. One, I would not have changed clothes.
Well, I'm kind of feeling a little bit of a Reese Witherspoon. The movie with the dog and the what? Like it's hard.
Legally Blonde?
Yes. I'm feeling a little bit of a Legally Blonde vibe here. Is that's kind of where you're at, and I think the best line in that movie, certainly to Reese Witherspoon herself, was, "You're just never going to be enough for them, are you?"
Right.
Like, you need to process that like there's nothing you're going to do.
Right.
And I mean that about your boyfriend as well. You're never going to be good enough.
Right.
So take that with this and see where you get from there.
Right.
All right. So ask gay bros over 30.
Yeah, well, I want to respond to something first.
Oh, okay.
Congratulations, Edward. Texas is a nice place. I find it interesting when we first heard this, we were like, well, she'll be closer to her dad. It'll be easier for her because, it just gets her closer to her dad.
Absolutely. All right.
So
So polls up.
30.
And ask gay bros over 30, long-term relationship marriage advice. Apologies for the long post. I need advice. I've been with my partner for 10 years. We met when I was 21 and he was 29. I had come from a very dysfunctional family setting and lost a very close relative and come out of a toxic relationship after 18 months. My plan was to be single for a while, but we met. We had known each other socially as friends prior and hit it off. And before I knew it, we were living together. I really liked him back then, but now, as I am older, I look back and think it was probably the nurture and safety he provided coming from a bad childhood. I came with some deep insecurities and anxieties after my ex, who was a prolific gaslighter and cheater. My partner always reassured me that he was not like the other guys. He was, quote, loyal like a dog, and I never had anything to worry about. I was young and dumb and made a couple of missteps, which I was persecuted heavily for and felt really guilty about, as I always told how he would never do these things to me, etc. There had been a couple of concerning incidents, a guy on Snapchat sending me nudes all the time, and another online pal sending messages and calling all the time. He assured me he would get rid of those, and that was that. We both agreed not to have Snapchat as it caused anxiety. Fast forward a few years and we get engaged, build a house, get married, etc. We move, we excel in our jobs, we get dogs, etc. All building a great life together. We had a good social life, traveled lots, a good sex life, etc. After 5 or so years, I noticed he was becoming increasingly distant. He would pull into the garage and sit in his car for 10 to 15 minutes before coming inside at times. He would take really long showers and take his phone with him. Sometimes I would come home and he would be on the couch and wouldn't even turn to look at him when I greeted him. Wouldn't turn to look at me when I greeted him. I eventually snooped, as you do, and found he had literally made a new Snap account, virtually to the day, all those years prior, and it continued online chatting to a couple of guys, swapping pics regularly. He had a Google Pixel, which would log every time he would download it, most mornings after I went to work, and delete it before I got home or during those long showers. The worst part was he had continued an online relationship of sorts with one of the guys. And whilst there was lots of nude swapping, it was the language that hurt. The I miss you and I want to hold you, all that kind of stuff. I sat there for hours reading it all. They had even spoken 8 days prior to our wedding, having chats like this. Needless to say, a big fight occurred. I felt hurt, betrayed, but also really angry that I had been persecuted for a couple of missteps to inappropriate conversations I had when we were first dating with another guy. For the last 5 years, he often made remarks that he didn't trust me. He put Find My phone on my phone, so he always knew where I was and had all my passwords and routinely checked my socials to make sure I wasn't doing, all while it was him doing the wrong thing. I now look back and realize his anxieties were stemming from his own guilt. I was only 25, 26 at the time. We had a big mortgage. I didn't have any family. I didn't really know what to do. His parents and siblings kind of strong-armed me into forgiving him. He had every excuse under the sun. He was bullied when he was younger, so he has always been insecure and finds himself seeking gratification. I am a cold person because I didn't grow up with love, all these sorts of things. We worked through it because I felt like I had no choice. But I became very angry and jaded on the inside. About 3 to 4 months later, I ended up cheating on him out of spite. I felt terrible afterwards, but I felt so ripped off. He had basically made me feel inferior for years when it was him the entire time. I confessed because secrets eat me up and we worked through it, and then the world went into a pandemic. That whole year disappeared, as it did for most, and then we sold our house, purchased a big renovator project, our career started to really take off, and we ended up opening our relationship up to lots of group play, bathhouses, saunas, etc. Don't get me wrong, it was a lot of fun, but it just didn't feel like the marriage I signed up for. I am old school. I believe in monogamy and real commitment, and I felt like our relationship had been cheapened and was continuing down a slippery slope. It has now been 5 years since his indiscretions came out, and I find myself wishing I had just left back then. I feel like I am a very different person now. I've excelled professionally and academically. I went back to school for a bachelor's degree and made peace with a lot of childhood trauma. I've found some long-lost relatives and built up good relationships. I have a good friend network and seeing a psychologist to work through all my problems. But I don't feel happy. I feel suffocated by this relationship, and I worry that I'm going to sink another 10 years into this and wish I had blown it up sooner. But then I fear I'm throwing away an amazing life we have built together to potentially be alone. I find his family to be suffocating, and I never get any time to myself and dream about this exciting new life where I'm doing my own thing, living how I want. But I am aware the gay world is not the same as it was 10 years ago. And dating now with all these apps is a nightmare. I don't want to regret my decision. My career in education has opened up doors and present opportunities overseas, and this really excites me, but I dream about doing it alone. Am I being selfish? Do I need to get a grip of reality and stop living in the clouds? Any advice from those who have been in similar situations would be helpful.
Well, honey, you got to stop contradicting yourself. First of all, one
there's
or
a
the
lot
other.
there. There's
Okay.
a lot there.
Well, there's a lot there, but there's one or the other. You either believe in monogamy, so you're going to go and practice monogamy, and not be going to bathhouses, not be going to saunas, not be doing group parties and chasing cocktails with the boys. And yes, I use cocktails for a reason. Or you're going to live with the decisions that you have made on your own.
I think the more important part is realizing you made decisions.
Yes.
You made decisions.
Right.
But continue.
All right. You made choices. You made choices before the two of you made choices. You've made choices after the two of you made choices. Okay? You made choices about the first two cheating incidents because that's what you defined them as, and the third cheating incident on your side. You had a 5-year relationship, and it took you 5 years to figure out that man doesn't take a 25-minute shower. So it's either OCD, or if the rest of his life doesn't look like he's OCD, other things are going on.
I feel like there's a backup on this one.
Right.
Because this is, like, you're justified. Like, right. Can we all agree, like, your whole post is trying to justify you have kept score this entire relationship. 10 years you have been keeping score. Right. Every time he cheated, everything he did wrong, everything that's wrong with him, everything he made you do. What you want to hear is, yes, go blow up your life. So there you go. There it is. Go be happy. Go blow up your life. That's what you want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like debating it. Like, if this were a phone call, I'm pretty sure Aeson would be on board. Go blow up your life, not because that's what you need to do, but because that's really all you want to hear. And I'm not going to spend 3 hours debating it with you.
Right.
Because that's all we're going to do is you're just going to keep throwing more things. More, like, you're going to nitpick through everything this man has done for 10 years to up that score that says, yes, leave it. Like, that's the only option there is. Leave it.
Right.
So one, you're not in a place to really be seeking advice.
Right.
You're not looking to find out, okay, are other people in this situation? Or
Right.
have they been? And how do you work through this? Do you work through this? If you do work through this, where does it get you? Is that worth it to me? Like that's really not what you want.
Right.
You want permission. So you have my permission, go blow up your life. I don't care.
Right.
Because we can debate you blowing up your life for 3 hours and still not get anywhere but where you already want to be, which is go do that. Like, just shut up about it and go do it.
Right.
Now, if you actually wanted advice,
Mm-hmm.
one, stop keeping score.
Right.
Start actively participating in your relationship.
Right.
In terms of, you are both imperfect people who have done some, it sounds, equally bad things to each other.
Exactly.
I could argue, yeah, your boyfriend needs some therapy.
Yeah.
That might be a good, like, strong arm to, like, if you want this to continue, like, if you want to give an ultimatum, send him to therapy. And go, look, we got to work on this. We can do couples therapy. You can do independent therapy. I don't care what you do.
Right.
And I think that's the other part of this, is you really need to understand you don't seem to actually care about what he's doing. You don't seem to care that he's cheating. You don't seem to care. You're not really invested in it. Like, I know you feel a little hurt about the messages you found, but honestly, I think you're exaggerating just a touch to up that score.
Well, and then the other part of this is he's placing all his happiness on the other person. My happiness
doesn't work.
My mood, my availability, my way of feeling about myself is not connected to anyone else except me.
Yeah. So if you want a takeaway for things to talk to your therapist about, it's about how not to be codependent.
Right.
Because that's some of what's happening here. But the reality is, this is sounding a lot like you have found your person. You have matched luggage. It goes together. I don't mean it's the same luggage. I mean, they fit together nicely. You need someone to blame.
Right.
They very much seem like they are happy to go off and do things to get blamed for.
Right.
So that's a very dovetail situation. Unless you're going to change that.
Right.
I don't think you're going to do better.
Right.
And the reality is, nothing you're saying sounds like you want to do something different. You just want to win.
Right.
Like,
I think the reality is he wants not only to win, but he wants to run away. Because instead of getting in there deep and going, this ain't working. This doesn't work for me. This doesn't work for me. This doesn't work for me. Welcome to your 30s. Welcome to your 40s.
Yeah. Met with. Okay, so welcome to your 30s, because 21, 10 years, 31. Right. Welcome to your 30s.
Welcome to long-term relationships where, we don't keep score. The reason we don't keep score is I would need a fucking notebook around here. I got enough stuff to write down.
You only need a notebook?
Yeah.
Like, that's adorable. I could fill one up per day.
No, you can't, because I'm that damn busy at work. I can't be doing that much.
You underestimate yourself.
Do you want the bills paid, or do you want me to have fun?
I'm teasing, but there's a reality to this. Like, I'm sorry. Like, let's get real. There's no happily ever after. Like, that is a child's fairy tale. Bless your heart if you're still thinking Disney is the grand arbiter of what marital bliss is, or marital life is, or relationships are. Like, it isn't. It is not. That is a perfect imagination event. That has no real basis in reality whatsoever. Now, if you're heavily drugged or electroconvulsed or lobotomized,
right,
you might have that experience.
right.
Barring that, no.
Right.
There's no fairy tale happy ending for anyone.
Right.
I don't care how much money you have or make or how wonderful your career is or whatever you want to put there. It's never going to be happily ever after. No one lives happily ever after. You find happiness.
Exactly.
And some of it's in spite of things.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it is because of things.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you don't necessarily know which bend that goes in. And that's all okay.
Right.
But it sounds like you are with someone in which your problems dovetail. For the most part, that's about as good as it gets.
Exactly. And the other part of that, and this is the part that you need to remember, is a good relationship. You're going to wake up every day and go, that car looks nice today. Wonder if I got a full tank of gas.
Mm-hmm.
And if by the end of the day, the only thing that you're happy about is that you are right where you are, you made it through the day. Good job. You work on it. As far as y'all's two relationship and who's done what, burn the damn scoreboard. Sit down and actually look at what is today. What do we need? What do I need today from you? And what do you need today from me? And work with that box of candy. Not what Joe ate yesterday, not what you ate today. This box here.
Like some days are garbage.
Yeah. Some days he isn't going to be in the mood to talk to you. Great. Put in your earbuds, turn up your music, and have a great time.
Yeah. Like, again, it's okay.
Yeah. Welcome to marriage.
If you want some general advice tips, don't bring your friends into it. And I don't mean don't talk to your friends at all about your relationship or anything in it. Not what I mean. Don't force them to pick sides. Do not make them your scoreboard keeper.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I seriously think you need to bring this up with your therapist and realize that you are self-sabotaging here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the scoreboarding will not win. You made choices. You can make new choices. Y'all can sit down and have a whole conversation and be like, look, this ain't working for me.
Right.
And now that may lead to a different conversation of, like, then none of this works.
Right.
That's not winning or losing.
Mm-hmm.
That's choosing.
Right. And I recommend people renegotiate their relationship every time a major life course changes.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also realize that I'm going to say this. This may sound horrible. Maybe I'm a horrible person. I don't know that you're my happily ever after.
Okay.
I know what I think is going to happen. I know what I think could occur. I know what I would want. It doesn't mean that I necessarily get that.
Mm-hmm.
You can get hit by a bus tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Nowhere is burying you tomorrow going to be my happily ever after. Like, I think and vice versa.
Right.
Like, that wasn't the plan.
Right.
So I can come up with scenarios here. There's what I would like to occur. There's what I think will occur. And there's the unknown realities of what's going to happen is what's going to happen.
Right.
I don't I don't know how else to say that than to acknowledge the fact I don't know that you're my happily ever after.
Right.
And I think if you start at that point and you try to build from wherever you're at in any relationship with the idea that this may not be the terminal destination.
Right.
Then you can actually pay more attention to what's going on, what you need, what you're getting, whether there's something about you that is influencing that. Like, are you keeping score? Are you trying to start arguments? Are you what is it you're doing? And is this a relationship just meant to fix you so you don't damage other people? Or is this about both of you coming together and figuring out how to work through this and make it better?
Right.
Because sometimes, and I've had past relationships, and this is why I struggle with like having hatred for exes. From my own perspective, for the most part, I don't really have hatred for my exes. There are things that I truly hate that occurred. There are things that I can't believe I put up with, on and on and on. But what I mean is, like, if nothing else, I can look back on every relationship I've ever had and been like, oh, did I learn things?
Right.
I learned what I don't want.
Right.
I learned some things that I do want. I have worked out things that were wrong with me, and vice versa. I think there has been a benefit to every past relationship I've had. So, do I necessarily think that, like, and none of them were a terminal destination?
Right.
They were a stepping stone.
Sure.
I think if you approach it that way, at least from my experience, it's a little easier to I hate the phrase, but humble yourself a little bit. You're not the hottest shit on the planet. Like, I'm sorry, I don't think anyone's the hottest shit on the planet. You know what I mean? Like, that people that have that mentality that everything is done to them, they have no contribution to it. You know, they're abusive ex, and just like we're seeing with this post, is that, like, the scoreboard keeping thing. And it's like, even if you're admitting some faults, you still seem to be promoting the idea that you're better than he is. That's not really where you want to be in any relationship. It doesn't work.
Right.
Like, you can't work together with people when you think they are less than you.
Right.
Like, it doesn't work.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can lead people, you can direct people, you can, engage with them in a master submissive dynamic.
Right.
But you can't work with them. And that seems
even
to be the biggest
even
key to relationship.
Even that relationship is a give and take. Even that relationship, any relationship is give and take. Happy and sad. You figure out what you want out of that relationship. I stopped believing in happily ever after years ago. Granted, I've not been single, clearly, completely single.
You know what?
22, 23 years. So, and I have a jaded view on relationships to begin with. Like, when we started dating, I flat out planned our divorce, told you how it was going to go and what was going to happen.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much.
Not that I was unreceptive to that, because quite frankly, I was the last one who wanted in the relationship in the first place.
But the first one trying to single and get it.
I'm just saying, I was like, and this isn't an indictment necessarily of my last ex, but I decided that I was just kind of done for a while.
Right.
And I thought maybe forever. Like, I'm not really all keyed up on this relationship thing.
Right.
Like, it's not doing me, like, in some regards, yes, it was doing me good. But I mean, like, I don't really, I don't like it.
Right.
Like, a lot of it's feeling really fake and forced and trying to jump ahead and rush and it was not where I was at that point in my life.
Right.
And so I was just kind of ready to be like, you know what, we're not doing this. Like, I'll date, and I did. Very casually. Like, I'm not rushing down an aisle. I am not trying to perform anything before 30.
Right.
Or 40 or 50. We're just gonna see what happens.
Right.
And which also, can I point out, made dating hard, because even in the casual dating, there kept being this kind of like push where it's like, I'm just trying to keep it casual, nothing serious. Like, I'm not looking for, like, let's get married. And then somehow that seems to always draw in people that are like, oh, okay, that's cool, me neither. And then very quickly that shifts for them.
Right.
And it's like, okay, so, like, are we official? Like, are we moving in together? And it's whoa. Pump your brakes.
Right. And then I come in and go, oh, it's Wednesday.
Cool. Yeah.
Oh, it's Wednesday again.
Okay.
Nice. And people really do not understand, because, I continue dating. Understand this mentality of mine of like, whatever, what works now.
Yeah.
Great. That works now. We can rock that.
Like, be dynamic with it. Like,
right.
And then it kills me when it really starts to feel like desperation for some.
Well, it kills me is it's like total desperation, total wanting to, and then when they get with somebody, they want to totally control everything. And it's like, no, you're just dating right now. You guys are not into a control switch situation or a release of control. Don't even go there.
Well, or more to the point, like, you're really jumping ahead. Like, you were trying to go a lot of levels really quickly. Like, and I especially understand people who've been in long-term relationships that have ended and, had the 5, 10, 15, 20 years, whatever experience. Now dating again, that seemingly want to just get back to that.
Right.
Like, you're going to leave that, like, and especially once like 15, 20 years. That's a lot of time. Like, a lot of things happen in that time period in a relationship. And you expect to meet someone like today, and then a month from now, you are looking to, like, have that comfortability you had with someone that you were in a relationship with for like 15, 20 years.
Right.
Like, you want to share bank accounts and, you like take over this and do that, and handle this, and call him daddy. What? Like, that's a lot.
Right.
That's a lot of a lot to expect of someone that, quite frankly, in that time frame, you don't know well enough for that.
Right.
You can't know well enough for that.
Right.
Like,
and I'm going to say this: if you don't know his McDonald's order by heart, you cannot share a bank account with him.
Fair enough.
You can't live with him if you don't know how to make their coffee.
Fair enough. Like, no, these are important things.
Right.
Like, and it's not and it doesn't mean go ask what their order is and write it down on a Post-it and shove it in your wallet. That's not.
No, I mean, quote it by freaking heart.
These aren't the most important things in a relationship, but they're examples of things you don't even have to think about.
Right.
Or sometimes it's like he doesn't know what he wants, and I go out and I just get him stuff, and it's like, I hope that's what he likes or wants tonight or whatever. And sometimes it works.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that is exactly what I wanted. And sometimes it's like, have we met?
Yeah.
And that's okay. There's a greater preponderance of the times that's like, I didn't even know I was hungry.
Right. But at the same time, what do I get at McDonald's?
2 of the double cheeseburgers, and then the rest of the order actually is saved in the app because there are so many additions and subtractions. It's a little hard to keep up with, but I think it is. Extra onions, no ketchup, extra pickles, heavy lettuce, extra mayonnaise.
Yep. Small fries.
Used to be add bacon and extra cheese, but you're a little negotiable on those.
Well, the bacon is a no-go.
Yeah, the bacon's out now. The cheese, you're still negotiable on.
Right.
It has more to do with the restaurant that we go to and the fact that half the time you say extra cheese, they just don't.
Right.
And so it's like, why am I paying $1 and something for cheese that I'm not going to get?
Right.
But that's, a different conversation.
Exactly. But then there's like things that you learn, and we had this experience recently. We went to Subnuts, which is their Subway and Dunkin' Donuts.
Yes. I have declared to be Subnuts because I think it's hilarious because we have now gone on this whole trend of like nicknaming places.
Right. So anyhow.
And I have a Bennifer mom.
Right. So anyway, we go up. He gets his donuts. He asked me if I wanted coffee. Yes. And he's like, you tell him what you want because it's more complicated than I can remember. And I'm like, it's
I was being facetious. I was ready to spit off the Starbucks order. But I somehow felt like I don't know that applies here, or if it applies the same way, or if this becomes a centuple shot.
Right.
I don't know. Like, everywhere's a little different with you.
Right. Because I know the quality of the coffee. And at Dunkin's, it's just standard order. 1 mocha, iced, no caramel. I want a mocha latte, not a chocolate mocha, not a mocha latte. Caramel, because for some reason they think caramel goes into mocha. It doesn't.
Yeah,
but anyhow,
the whole chocolate and caramel thing. Like, it just doesn't
I hate
work.
caramel in general.
Mostly, yes.
Yeah.
Except you're all about it for that it's not a cobbler, dump cake thing. The apple one, oh my god, he will go through a whole damn bottle of caramel sauce on the top of that fucker. Like, he just...
Honey.
Yes.
I love you, but how often do I make that?
Okay, it's been a while, but I'm just saying, it is the exception.
Back up the page.
That's the moment.
Where does that normally go to?
Okay, that gets taken to events, but you still eat you like it.
I like it, this goes into more food science.
Okay.
That caramel sauce I like for the apple thing, but the apple thing is literally for events, and the only reason I use caramel in it at all is because apples and caramel go together. And most people want that.
Oh, God, it's the mustard all over again.
Yes.
Oh.
You can tell
No.
and then we'll wrap up.
All right. Well, they've heard the mustard story. That's why I referenced it. It's the mustard. Or the inverse mustard. Because the mustard thing, as in no mustard, I went, 2 years in our relationship thinking you hate mustard. Because every time we ordered anything out, you always said, no mustard, no mustard, no mustard. So ingrained in my head was the idea he hates mustard. He doesn't like mustard. He doesn't want mustard. Mustard gets removed from everything. The dog doesn't like mustard. He is pre-planning leftovers for the dog into his order from the beginning so that if he doesn't finish or eat the second hamburger or whatever, the dog will be appeased because the dog does not like or eat mustard.
Right.
Y'all want to know like how much that messes with a brain when you find out, because he doesn't tell me gently. He waits until I literally say it like it is a fact. No mustard. He hates mustard. And he goes, no, I don't. I love mustard. What gave you that idea? And all of a sudden, I'm standing going, did I have a stroke? I have 3 years of experience of this man saying no mustard in my head. Like, did I fall into a parallel universe? Have I somehow like transposed an X? Like what has occurred that I am adamant you do not get mustard on anything? For him to then explain this to me.
And what he didn't get is anytime we were away for multiple days, or I was in Princeton for multiple days, I would get mustard.
Except when you didn't.
You're right. When I was headed to Oak Hill.
But no, I didn't catch the times that you were like ordering it or you went out or I didn't catch it.
Right.
Like whatever. In my head, every time I have been standing next to him while he, orders and says aloud, all of that has ingrained the idea he doesn't like mustard. He doesn't want mustard. He doesn't eat mustard. Into my brain, it is now an imprinted idea. He never actually said, I don't like mustard. But if you hear someone repeatedly remove it from things that contain mustard or say no to it when offered, okay, doesn't like mustard.
Right.
Just check the little box. No mustard.
Mm-hmm.
Now I put mustard on things with him just for spite.
Yeah.
Like I'll sometimes just hit extra mustard just to be like, doesn't like it, huh?
Right. All right. So let's take a look at the poll and see if we got any votes tonight. Ooh. Everyone's shitty here.
Ooh. Did not expect that.
Yeah.
Not expect that. All right.
Right. So with that, take it away.
All right, so of course we want to thank Beverly Walker, Mika G, Brenda, Joan Owen, Shannon C, Shannon D, Lady Gwendolyn, Caitlin Bell, Devin, and Maria Meyer. If you'd like to learn more about us, the show, or how you too can become a Patreon sponsor and receive all the wonderful benefits our baristas receive, please visit us at pcsbnetwork.com.
Yes. All right, guys, have a great night and program change. Programming change. Permanent programming change. Psychic That Plans is moving to 6 p.m. So everything will be updated tonight.
All righty.
All righty. Good night,
See
y'all.
you Sunday at 6 p.m. Good night.
Good night.